Good morning. Welcome to Sky CTC FANUC class. This morning we're going to be covering a motion program. I'm going to go ahead and apologize for my congestion. If you have problems understanding me or have any issues with it, let me know. We can handle them and address them as needed. So this morning we're talking about the motion program. We will be covering creating a program, naming the program, dealing with the program header information, and then recording a position and testing your program, because you always want to test your program and make sure it's what you want and make sure it will do the job that you need it to do, right? So motion program tells the robot where to go, how to get there, and what to do when it gets there. It's a sequential set of commands that guide the robot to do those things that you need it to do. So we're going to start with looking at this program we have open here. This says enter value or press enter. I know some of these things are probably kind of hard to read, so I'm going to go over all of it. It says that because up here that position number is highlighted, and you can change that position number if you need to. You have a choice down here. You can change that to a position register. We'll get into that later. But you can change that just by highlighting it and changing it either by choice, by pressing enter, by typing a number. There's different ways. After you type the number, you want to press enter to seal it in there and save it as it. So here we see the line numbers. Those are line numbers. This is your end symbol. You're on 3 out of 4 because you're on this line, so that's 3 out of 4. You have 3, and then we consider the end a line, so it's the 4th line. This is the name of your program. This is aborted. It says aborted. It can say paused or running. If it's aborted, you're going to be able to run this program no problem. If it's paused or running, you're going to have to abort that program before you can run another program. We'll get to that here shortly. The speed, that is a 5%. We've covered that. We know what that is. We dealt with that yesterday. So I'm not going to go back over that and cover it again. When you're on that position, there's going to be a option here to press, a soft key. You can press that as F5, or if it's touchscreen, press it itself. And it'll pull up the position data for that position. So it tells you exactly where it's at. To create a program. To create a program, we press select and it brings up our list of programs that we want to choose from, use, edit, or create a new program. This is an option at the bottom. Press F2 or press the button itself, press create. And it doesn't matter what you're on, it's going to create a new program. So when you press create, it brings up your create, teach, pendant program. You can put in your program name. You can select these pre-made words that FANUC has given you, or you can press uppercase, lowercase, or options. Most people just use the top 3. So if you want to create a unique word, I don't know what it could be, you make up a name for your program. Box 1 is what we'll be using out there. You can use that and create a program name. So I created mine and made it main. I just selected one of the options at the bottom, press main, it gave me that name. So I moved on and press enter. It sends your highlight down here. I can either be done with the program here or I can go to detail. You go to program header information, which pulls up this screen. You scroll down, it scrolls the screen up and brings up more portions. But it starts here with your main, which is the program name, which you can edit here. Subtype, you can change that. We'll go into that. Your comment, group mask, write protect, ignore pause, and stack size. We'll start with the subtype. When you go to subtype, you have the option for none, macro, or COND condition. We will get into macros in another chapter, so I'm not going to dig into that. But that is an option, and that's where you'll select it when you want to use it for a macro program. Comment, just like however you made the name, you can make a comment. So you can choose from your selected letters. To choose each letter, press F1 3 times and you're going to get to C. Press it 4 times, it's D, you get the drift. If you want to use 2 letters from the same box, get your letter, it'll cycle through them and it'll show them here as you're typing it. So it shows your letter and it's still blinking on it, but you want to use the same, a letter from the same box. Press the right arrow key, it'll move your blinker over one, then you can select your other letter from the same box. So that's how you get through that. Group mask, press enter when you're done at the comment. Press, and then you move down, and group mask. We will only be using the robot group out on these robots, one of them. You can use both. We're only going to be using one. And one means it's active. Asterisk means that it is not active. So you want it to be active. You don't want to have an asterisk there, or it's not going to be able to work for you. And we'll get into the groups a little later as well. Write protect. If you want your program to be protected from being deleted, edited, messed with by somebody else, you want it to stay good and stay the way you want it and had it, keep that on. Keep it off. If you want it to not be messed with, have it on. If it doesn't matter, my program, it doesn't matter because it's just a program I'm using to demonstrate, I keep it off. So, does that make sense? I didn't confuse anybody? Okay. Making sure. I had a brain fart there for a minute. Ignore pause. You can turn them off, on and off the same way for both of them. Ignore pause is set up. You're only going to use that if you have nothing but asterisks. You don't have anything active. Stack size, 500 is good for a regular program. If you're doing some extremely elaborate program, you may want to up the size. But these programs, they hold a lot of information. They're very small on the information size, and it can be a huge program. They don't take up a lot of space. It's very nice that way. You can save all your programs in a 2 gigabyte hard drive. So that says something about the size of the programs themselves, bytes wise. Press N when you're done. Now you have a program. Main is what I created. Now you have a program in there. Press enter and you'll bring up this one. Press enter and you'll bring up the program that you had highlighted. It'll open it. Now we want to create a point. We've created a motion program. Now we want to record a point in this program. So we hold shift and we press point. Right? If our T-spin is on, hold shift, press point. We'll create a point. If we don't like exactly where that point is at, because this is sitting right here, the robot's just sitting there. You've recorded that point, now it's sitting there. That's where the point is. It knows that's where the point is. So if you want to set up another one down here, you jog the robot down, set up your second point, now it's that point. Shift point, when you get down here and you've logged in your second point, just here. If you want to touch up, if you don't like it the way it's sitting there and you want to move it, adjust it, jog it, adjust it where you want it, need it, shift, touch up. Are you sure you want to touch up? Yes, I'm sure I want to touch it up. Touch it up, you're done with it. Now that point is wherever you adjusted it to. Make sure when you touch up, the highlighted portion over here is highlighting the line that you actually want to touch up. If you want to touch up line 2 and you have line 1 highlighted with the black highlight, if it's highlighted, it's going to touch up that point to whatever you wanted that one touched up to. So you're going to throw yourself off pretty good. So don't do that. Make sure that your highlight is in the right place and you are exactly sure that's what you want to touch up. Now we look at the instruction tab. You press instruction, it pulls up your 3 instruction menus. You can look through those, and we'll cover those in the next chapter as the motion instructions. We're not going to cover those right now, but that's how you're going to add them when we actually do cover them. This is the add sign. The add sign tells you that your robot is at that position. If the add sign is here, it tells you the robot is at that position. If the robot is not at either position, you're not going to have an add sign on the board if it is not at a designated position that you have created. So in other words, if you are in transit from one position to the next, you're not going to have an add sign. If you are at a position, it will have an add sign. And that's how you can tell that the position is at that position, that the robot is at that position. Step mode. We have step mode so that we can take a step through the program, one step at a time, instead of running through each motion and not stopping. If you want to see it slowly go one step at a time, or you're trying to get to one instruction in particular, then you want to put it in steps so that it doesn't keep going after you get it to that step, get it to that line in that motion. So to use step, you press the step button that is on your pendant. It changes it from green to yellow with 2 red lines with arrows at each of those lines, which means a step. After you press the step, you know it's in step mode. Hold shift, press forward, and it's going to go to the next step after. It's going to go to the step that's highlighted first. When you press forward again, it's going to highlight the next step after that, or the next line, and go to that next position or line or motion instruction. So it'll keep doing that as you keep pressing forward. It'll take one step at a time to the next line or motion instruction. That's step mode. If you want to go into a continuous mode, you press step button again, and now you're in non-step continuous mode. It's solid green. That means you're not in step mode. Now you can hold shift, press forward, and it's going to go through each line one at a time, but it's going to keep going through them. It's not going to stop between each one. It's going to continuously go down the line and keep going and run through your program until you either let off shift, press hold, do something that stops the program anyway. If you press backwards in non-step, continuous, or in step, if you press backwards, it's going to go back one line at a time each time you press it. It will not have any effect on IOs, and it's only going to take one step back. You're not going to, even in the non-step continuous mode, you're not going to hold shift, press backwards, and it's going to run through the whole program backwards. It doesn't work like that. It's not a rewind. It is just a backward step. So we've covered the non-step and the step function abilities of it. Now we're going to cover cycle start using the SOP. So you take your pendant, you turn it off, you take your SOP, and you have the T2, T1 auto, turn your switch to auto, fault reset, cycle start. If your program is set up, if everything's right, this says aborted, you're at the top of the program, no problem, everything's good, that program is going to start and run through the program. Just run through it line by line the way you set it up. If it says pause or running, you're going to have to do a function abort to cut that out. If not, it's going to run straight through. Because if you have paused or running then it will tell you that it is already locked by another task. That right there means you need to do a function import, or you need to find out what program is running, why it's running, and find out if you need to do a function import. You may not need to cancel that program. You may be in the wrong program or something to do with that. So keep that in mind as you're working with this. Other problem you may run into is a prompt box telling you that you're not in the right sequence. If you try to start here, it says it's at that position. So if I try to start here, I'm not starting where it's at. So that means I'm telling it to go to the position 1, then start the program. It doesn't like that. You're out of sequence. It doesn't want to be out of sequence because that puts danger to you, somebody around you, or the machine, or the robot. So it's going to prompt you and say, hey, do you know that you're starting it out of sequence? If you do, click yes, carry on, forward, move through, no problem. If you say, oh, I didn't know that I wasn't in the right place, press no, and it'll take you to the line where you're supposed to be at. So we've covered that. Now we're going to pull up the RoboGuide software and walk through creating a program and seeing how it works. So now, again, I'm sorry for any splicing in here. The camera only records 12 minutes. I didn't want anything to be missed. So now we are going through and going over what we just covered. I'm just going to do it on the board in front of you and demonstrate it so that it's easier for you to recognize when you're doing it yourself on the pendant with those robots we have in the lab. So we're going to start with making a new program. So we start here, we press select to show our list of programs. We press create, or F2. Program name, words. I'm just making a demonstration, so do test sub. Press enter. It goes on. I'm going to turn my teach pendant on. It moved to the end. Now I can press detail. So I pull in my details. I'm not going to go through and describe everything. We already know what it is. Just walking you through it. So subtype none, I'm good with it. Comment, I don't want a comment in there. I have no need for one. Group mask, covered the groups. Write protect, off. I'm not worried about somebody editing it. Ignore pause, off. Stack size, I'm good with that. So I'm good with everything on the program header, so I'm going to press end. Now, I'm going to add lines because I like to add lines when I'm creating my program. It is not required. Everybody's different on how they like to create them. Once you get into it, you can figure out your best way. You can create them, or you can automatically go ahead and start adding points and motion instructions, just add it to it. The instructions tab pulls up all your different your motion instruction options that are available to you. You can choose between those if you want them. We'll talk about them in the next chapter. So right now, I'm not going to add any. Add a point. Remove the robot. Add another point. Move the robot. Add another point. Now I have 3 points. So that's going to be enough to show you. So now I have it. And turn it down so it won't be so fast. But I'm having it run through. And you can see it stops at the last point because it doesn't have direction to go back to the first point. But watch the @ sign cycle through those 3. This is in the non-step continuous mode. It's going to continuously run down each line until it runs out of lines and it stops and the program resets and it says program is done. If I wanted to go through step, I press the step button. Step changes. Now I wanted to shift, I want to do forward. And it's going to take me to the first position. Forward again, takes me to the second position. Again, takes me to the third position. I can go to any position I want to by doing this. There's the backwards, takes me back to that position. That way, I'm not pressing, if I started here on the non-step and I press forward and I was trying to just get to P2 or line 2, it's going to run through and I'm probably not going to be able to take my finger off in time for it to stop exactly at that position. If I wanted to stop exactly at that position, I'm going to put it in step mode, press forward at that to that position. So I'm here. Okay, let's say I want to go to position 1. There's the prompt that tells you, hey, are you sure you want to do this? It's not the line you're on. Yes, I'm sure. I want to go to position 3. Now, say I want to go to position 1. It's not anywhere close to 3, right? So we're gonna forward. Yes, I'm sure. Forward again. It went to position 1. I wanted it to go to position 1. I wanted to stop there. I told it to go there in step mode. It stopped there. I'm happy. Now we can make changes. Now if I want to touch it up, move joint 3 down a little bit. There we go. I like it right there better than I liked it on the other way, on where it was at before. So I'm going to take it out of step because I don't need that. It has nothing to do with it. Shift, touch up. Now, my new position now is where I have it now. It has changed from where it was to where it is now. It can still run through the program just fine. The program doesn't see it any differently other than that position has now been changed to your new position that you have set because you've touched up the old position, made it a new position in a different location. And then the only other point to cover would be the running in cycle start. I can't run it in cycle start on here, but if I did, I would turn this off, turn teach pin it off, turn my switch on the SOP from T1 or T2 to auto, reset my faults. It's aborted, so it should run clear. It's at the top of the line, and it's aborted. I press cycle start, it's going to go to the top, and it's going to run all the way down, and it'll be done. So there should be no problem with that program running. I've tested it by step mode. I've tested it from non-step continuous. So the cycle start should be just running the program on a regular basis. So we've covered creating a motion program, naming it. We've covered looking at and editing the program header, recording a position, and last but not least, we have tested our program. So now we're going to head out to the lab and we're going to get some hands-on with it. First, go ahead and take a 5-minute break, and we'll be heading out there shortly. If you have any questions, anybody have any questions you want to ask now? No? Okay. If you have questions while we're out there, I'll be there. You can ask me anything you need to. It'll be easier when you're looking at it. So go ahead and take a break, and we'll see you in 5 minutes, okay? Thanks.